The Atlanta Braves really need Ha-Seong Kim to come back for 2026. Who's their main competition to sign him if he gets to free agency? Let's talk about it. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today for Monday, October 20th. Your source of news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. You can follow the show on X, Braves_today. We have a Facebook page and Instagram as well. And you can find all of my written work, BravesToday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack, as this is both a podcast and a newsletter. Not a ton of overlap between the show and the newsletter today. This morning's edition was about prospects, pitching prospects specifically, who could come up and reinforce the rotation in 26. Because I think we all were a little disappointed that you weren't really able to get a lot of contributions from the farm on the pitching side in 2025. And I even gave my prediction for the lower level pitcher who shoots up and surprisingly gives you 40 or so innings in the majors. So check that out. But today I want to talk about Ha-Seong Kim, and specifically, I want to discuss who is Atlanta's primary competition to sign him, right? A lot of the reports are that he's going to likely opt out or not pick up his player option for $16 million for 2026 and become a free agent. Now, the Braves are in an exclusive negotiating window with him now. They have the ability to exclusively negotiate with him. He officially becomes a free agent the day after the World Series ends and can officially sign somewhere else 5 days after the World Series. He is physically in Korea right now. He went back to Korea soon after the season ended, and so everything you would be doing would be with his agent, Scott Boras. So let's go through all of the teams in Major League Baseball and discuss who might legitimately be in on Ha-Seong Kim, because you could count 10 teams or so that would want to upgrade at shortstop. I don't know if all of them would be in on Ha-Seong Kim. And the caveat here as well on this is kind of just looking at shortstop. He has the ability to play second and third. He's done both of those while he was with San Diego. There is some questions about his arm strength. It didn't fully come back after the injury. So we'll kind of see what happens there. But we're going to kind of just look at this from the shortstop perspective. Shout out to Tina, premium subscriber to the newsletter. This was her idea. She was the one who suggested this to me about what other teams are in the market for a shortstop. So thank you, Tina, for that. Premium subscribers to the newsletter can have the ability to be assignment editors, essentially. They can ask me to cover a specific thing and I will write a newsletter or do a podcast on it. Let's start I know it says National League, it says American League on the sidebar on the side for those of you who are on YouTube, but we're going to start in the National League because I feel like that's a little more interesting. We'll just go in alphabetical order. Easiest way to do this. The Arizona Diamondbacks are not in on Ha-Seong Kim. Geraldo Perdomo, I don't quite think everybody realizes how good he was last year. Fangraphs had him at 7 WAR. He had a walk rate better than his strikeout rate. 13.1% walk rate, 11.5% strikeout rate. A WRC plus of 138, third best on the team behind only Kettle Marte and Corbin Carroll. And their traditional stats, he hit 290 with 20 homers and 27 stolen bases. So one, people who have been saying trade for Geraldo Perdomo, that is not realistic. He is not going to move. He has fully broken out as a quality performer. There could be a conversation about Jordan Lawler, right? Do they try and move Jordan Lawler, who was playing third late in the year after Eugenio Suarez was traded? Do they try and move him for like a pitching upgrade or something? Because right now their rotation looks to be pretty bad. Ryan Nelson, Eduardo Rodriguez, Brandon Pfaadt, Bryce Jarvis, Christian Mina. Remember, They're going to have Zach Gallen is a free agent. Merrill Kelly was already traded. Corbin Burns, Tommy Henry, Blake Walston, all out on TJ. So not a threat to sign Ha-Seong Kim unless they're looking at third base. Although there could potentially be a deal there for you to trade for Jordan Lawler by giving them a major league starting pitcher. So think about, are you willing to give up one of your young major league starting pitchers to get Jordan Lawler, who really struggled when he got called up last year? All right. Obviously, next team alphabetical order would be Atlanta. That's not there. Chicago Cubs. It is very unlikely the Chicago Cubs would be looking at a shortstop. They have Dansby Swanson signed long term. Nico Horner is coming up on the end of his team control. Right? Nico Horner is signed through 2026 for $12 million and is a free agent after this. It's entirely possible they re-sign him. Could they look at something where maybe Matt Shaw moves to second and they try to bring in a Ha-Seong Kim for third? It's possible. Or vice versa, keep Shaw at second, bring Kim in, and they'll just have one extra infielder, and assuming somebody goes down, or send Matt Shaw back to the minors and do Kim at third for a season. It's possible, but it's going to be unlikely for a team to pay the shortstop premium in free agency just to move that guy somewhere else. Okay. Cincinnati Reds. They have Ellie De La Cruz. They should be good. Matt McClain has also played some shortstop, so it feels like they're going to be okay without him. So I don't expect that to happen. Colorado Rockies. They have Ezekiel Tovar. Yes, he did regress. 25% strikeout rate, was barely worth was not even worth one full WAR via Fangraphs. Hit 253 with a 294 on base and a 400 slug in almost 400 plate appearances this year. 9 homers, 5 stolen bases. But it still doesn't feel like they would be out there to make a move for a shortstop. I don't think they're going to be signing a free agent shortstop. And even if they are, what are the odds that Ha-Seong Kim goes there without them having to pay a stupid Chris Bryant size deal? They don't even have a general manager right now. So can't put Colorado into this. The Los Angeles Dodgers, I think, are a threat to sign anybody, but Mookie Betts is a Gold Glove nominee at shortstop. He is the one person that we've seen move to shortstop in their major league career and actually be successful. And it's kind of frustrating because now everybody's like, oh yeah, go get this guy and put him at short. Go get this guy and put him at short. Just because Mookie Betts did it doesn't mean everybody else can do it. But with Mookie Betts at short, Tommy Edman's been playing a lot of second base, while Andy Pages plays center. Ha-Seong Kim can play both second base and center field. Tommy Edman can play second base and center field. They do have Max Muncy at third. And Muncy has a $10 million club option for 2026. They are also bringing back Miguel Rojas for his final season. He can play third as well. I don't think they sign Ha-Seong Kim. But again, the Dodgers are a threat to sign any free agent that's out there. So you can't ignore that. Miami. The Miami Marlins moved Xavier Edwards to second. They've been playing Otto Lopez at short. I'm going to say no here simply because this Miami Marlins team has been almost allergic to signing players in general, right? They just have not wanted to sign players to deals. And I feel like Ha-Seong Kim is going to want a long-term deal, and Miami's not going to offer that. So I'm going to say no on Miami. Milwaukee, probably a similar situation. Can you upgrade from the combo of Joey Ortiz and Caleb Durbin at shortstop and third base? Yes, you can. When's the last time you saw Milwaukee go out and sign a free agent to a long-term deal? It just doesn't make a lot of sense as far as the way that team likes to operate for them to do that. So I don't think you're going to end up seeing the Milwaukee Brewers in on Ha-Seong Kim. The New York Mets have Francisco Lindor. I do think if Pete Alonso doesn't come back, they move Mark Vientos to first base, and they put Brett Beatty at third, Jeff McNeil at second. They have an infield figured out for 2026. Again, they are a team with the money. They're a threat to sign anybody. But they do also have Luis Angel Acuna, who can play anywhere in the infield and has 5 years of team control left. He might actually have a full 6. I don't know if he got enough service time this year to, I think it's 5. I think it's 5 years of team control left. And so it doesn't feel like that's going to happen, but, the money's there. Philly, I think, even though they have Trey Turner at shortstop and he got better defensively this year, like he was surprisingly a positive defender this year, I do think you have to watch out for Philly. Bryson Stott, Alec Bohm are playing second and third, and Philly feels like they're going to shake things up this winter. Nick Castellanos is supposed to be gone. We've heard a lot of that argument this winter about they cut him, they trade him, something like that's going to happen. I feel like they might try to move on from either Bryson Stott or Alec Bohm. You also have the scenario of if they don't bring back Kyle Schwarber, you probably end up DHing Bryce Harper some more, and they could always put Bohm at first. So even though they have a shortstop, I do think there's a couple different configurations they could do. They could put Turner at second and Kim at short. They could put Kim at third or at second if they move on from either of those guys. I do think Philly's a threat here because Philly needs to, they've kind of telegraphed they're going to shake some things up. I feel like Philly's going to be a threat. Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh Pirates, I have zero faith they're going to sign anybody in free agency to any sort of meaningful contract. Just zero. Let's move on. Would the San Diego Padres possibly want Ha-Seong Kim back? It's possible. Xander Bogaerts was a positive defender at shortstop in 2025, but he's 33 years old. Is it possible that they try to do something like Jake Cronenworth going from second to first, Bogaerts going from short to second, and bringing Kim back for shortstop? It's possible. I don't think it's likely, especially given the fact that their payroll has gone down since Peter Seidler died. So I don't think this is going to happen, but since he is familiar with the organization, you never know. We do have to mention it's a possibility. The San Francisco Giants have been very aggressive, right? They traded for Rafi Devers. They're looking at hiring Tony Vitello from Tennessee, the University of Tennessee, as their manager, which is a crazy idea that is not going to work out. But I think Matt Chapman's at third, Willy Adames is at short. They're kind of locked in. I do think they're a threat for Ha-Seong Kim at second base, though. They rotated Tyler Fitzgerald, Casey Schmidt, didn't get good performances out of anybody at second base. I do think they're a threat under Buster Posey to go pay for Ha-Seong Kim because not only could he play a very good second base, he could also be insurance if Willy Adames goes down. They could kick him over to short and be just fine. Again, will they pay the premium, the shortstop premium, and then put that guy at second base? I doubt it. But from the little we know of President of Baseball Operations Buster Posey, he is not afraid to take big swings. Again, they took Rafi Devers and all of his money in that deal. So I do think they are a threat here to sign, a threat to sign Ha-Seong Kim. St. Louis Cardinals. They've got Mason Wynn at short. I don't see them making a move here. They got Brendan Donovan at second. I don't see them being in here. I don't think they're spending a ton of money. Their payroll is going to go down a little bit when they make some trades. Nolan Arenado, Sonny Gray, maybe. And we've talked about that a little bit. Maybe you go and you get a thing like a Sonny Gray and a Lars Nootbaar, or a Sonny Gray and a Donovan or a Burleson or something. We've talked about that a little bit. But I don't see that happening. Washington doesn't seem super happy with C.J. Abrams at short. He's a little bit messy of a shortstop. But at the same time, I don't see them signing the long-term deal when their rebuild has stalled. They just got a bunch of youngsters up like Brady House at third, Robert Hassel in center, and they've got to get these guys acclimated to the majors. I don't necessarily see them coming out of pocket to sign Ha-Seong Kim. So if you're kind of going through this list, your threats in the National League, I feel like it's the Los Angeles Dodgers, because it always is. I feel like Philly. I feel like potentially San Diego. And I feel like San Francisco are your threats. There's 4 teams right there who you all could legitimately see making a play for Ha-Seong Kim. In just a minute, let's get to the American League, because there's a very obvious team here that should be all over Ha-Seong Kim. We'll do that next, right here on Braves Today. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Delete Me. They make it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone vulnerable, because data brokers make a profit off of your data. They hoover up everything that's available somewhere online, whether or not it was you put it there, somebody else put it there, it was stolen, whatever, and then they turn around and sell it, and that can lead to things like identity theft, phishing attempts, or harassment. So, take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me now at a special discount for our listeners. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/HIT and use promo code HIT at checkout. The only way to get this 20% off discount is to go to joindeleteme.com/HIT and use promo code HIT at checkout. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby. Let's look at the American League here, because another situation where there are some teams that kind of make a lot of sense over on this side of the bracket, and teams that don't make a ton of sense, but sometimes do weird things money-wise. So the Athletics, I don't see this as happening, right? I don't know if they're happy with Zach Gelliff at second base. He was a negative WAR player. Granted, he only got 100 plate appearances this year. But Jacob Wilson, their shortstop, is controlled for like 5 more seasons. He had a 5% walk rate and a 7% strikeout rate. And he hit over 300 last year with 13 homers and 5 stolen bases. So they don't have a need at shortstop. Is it possible that they look at a move for second base? Technically, yes. But again, you're in a situation where you're paying the shortstop premium for a second baseman. I don't see this as very likely. The Baltimore Orioles, one, have not really shown a willingness to pay players in free agency. And then 2, shortstop and second base are taken over by Jackson Holliday and Gunnar Henderson. Gunnar Henderson was, again, really good last year, 4.8 WAR. Holliday wasn't as good, right? Gunnar hit 274 with 17 homers and 30 stolen bases. Holliday hit 242 with a 375 slug. Still a young player. He's not even 22 yet, I don't believe. And so, feels like they're set over there. Jordan Westberg has kind of been the third baseman for a while. Kobe Mayo plays more first than third. But again, they haven't really come out of pocket to sign free agents. I don't see Baltimore being the team here. The Boston Red Sox, the question here is going to be, what does Trevor Story do? Okay, Trevor Story can opt out of his deal, and this whole thing is very complicated how this works. I don't know if I've talked about it on the show before or not. So real quick, the way that Trevor Story's deal works is he can opt out of the final 3 years and $55 million. Okay? So 26, 27, and there's a club option for 28. He can opt out of that. And in return, if Boston wants to keep him, they can then go ahead this offseason and pick up the 2028 club option. And by doing that, that overrides his opt-out. So he technically has 2 guaranteed years left at $25 million apiece. There's a $5 million buyout in 28 if they don't pick up the club option if he stays. But if he chooses to leave now, they can just go ahead and pick up the club option now. I'm not 100% convinced they would pick up the club option, because isn't the dream kind of being able to get out of the back end of an over 30-year-old veteran's contract? Look at Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole was like coming off of a Cy Young, and he told the Yankees he was going to opt out. And they were like, okay. And so he just kind of backtracked and stayed with the Yankees. They had a similar ability to kind of, I think it was like add a guaranteed year at the end to override his opt-out, and they didn't do it. They just called his bluff. I don't know if Boston would be willing to guarantee an extra year to Trevor Story to cover his age 35 season. I think they'd probably love to be out from under this contract. Marcelo Myers penciled in as the third baseman, with Ceddanne Rafaela at second base, but both those guys can play shortstop. I don't think Boston would end up being a player here for Ha-Seong Kim, but it's possible if Story leaves, they would either want Kim for short, or if they kicked somebody, Rafaela or Meyer, into short, they would want Kim to replace that guy. So you can't count Boston out. Chicago White Sox, Colson Montgomery's their shortstop. He was surprisingly productive from a power perspective. He hit 21 home runs and 284 plate appearances. Do I think he is on pace to hit 45 homers next year? No, but I do think that they're happy with him as a shortstop. So let's move on from the White Sox. The Cleveland Guardians, they're not going to spend the money on a guy in free agency. I mean, that's just where we are. Gabriel Arias is going to be their shortstop. Brian Rocchio is probably at second base. I just don't see them spending the money in free agency because that's not really their whole bag, man. That's just not what they do. So I don't think Cleveland's the team. The Detroit Tigers, maybe. They're not 100% set at shortstop. They've got Javi Baez. They played him there some. They played multiple different guys at shortstop. And I don't feel like they're really thrilled with any of the options. So you'd have a 33-year-old Javi Baez at short. Maybe they make a move for a Ha-Seong Kim. I do think they need a bigger impact than Ha-Seong Kim, but it's entirely possible that they say, hey, we're going to put Javi Baez back in the outfield. He played center field while Parker Meadows was on the IL. And we put Kim at short. So it's possible. I don't think they're a tier 1 threat, but maybe they're a tier 2. Houston, they have Jeremy Pena. He's already halfway through his team control. I wonder if they end up trying to move him. I've seen a whisper or two that could potentially happen. But they grabbed Carlos Correa to play third base. They've got Pena at second, Pena at short, Altuve at second. I don't really see them making the move here for Ha-Seong Kim, especially because Ramon Urias and Mauricio Dubon can play all of those positions as well. They've got plenty of options for second base. Bryce Matthews, they brought him up and down a little bit this year. He's played second, he's played third, he played a little bit of short. They've got plenty of options for short. I don't think they need to make a move here. The Royals have Bobby Witt Jr. at short. They have Michael Garcia at third. Second's been a little bit of a revolving door. Michael Massey was the guy. He wasn't that great again this year. He's one of those, I keep waiting for Michael Massey to break out and he won't do it, right? That's the kind of, I just keep waiting for him to be the guy and he won't ever commit to being the guy. So is it possible that they make a move for him at second? I mean, technically, yes. Jonathan India, they're DHing him. He's also a second baseman. I don't see this as a very likely scenario. So let's move on here. Los Angeles Angels have Zach Neto at shortstop. He was worth 3.5 WAR this year. Had some issues, but hit 257, 26 homers, 26 stolen bases. If everything broke right for Zach Neto, I think he could be one of the young breakout stars in baseball. He was 4 each away from a 30-30 year on a bad Angels team, and he only got 550 plate appearances. If he had a full season, he could have been a 30-30 guy, and that's without the additional improvements that his game needs. I don't think that they go out and make a move here. Young Christian Moore is their second baseman. They promoted him during the season. He didn't hit well. Issue for everybody. But, I mean, this would be a maybe third base for Ha-Seong Kim. And again, you're paying the shortstop premium for a third baseman. The Minnesota Twins, when they traded away Carlos Correa, Brooks Lee took over at short. Luke Keeschel, who they got, I think from the... No, they drafted Luke Keeschel. He was playing a lot of second. Royce Lewis is at third. Maybe this is possible. Austin Martin's an outfielder, but he was originally an infielder, playing a lot of second base and stuff. He was like second base, center field, and now he's over in left because they have Buxton. I don't think they would go and make the move here. I think a lot of people expect them to cut payroll some more this winter, not to add to it by signing a long-term deal for a guy like a Ha-Seong Kim. Let's move on from that. The New York Yankees are the big one I think you need to worry about here if you're the Atlanta Braves. Okay? They are very clearly not happy with Anthony Volpe. They are not happy with Anthony Volpe. He won't be available to start the season either because he had shoulder surgery. And he's gotten worse every season. His defense has slipped. And they acquired Jose Caballero from the Rays in a trade and ended up playing Caballero over Volpe some down the stretch. I do think on opening day, it'll be something where Chisholm's at second, Ryan McMahon's at third, and Jose Caballero's at short. And when Anthony Volpe comes back, they're going to have a decision to make. But Jose Caballero is also not that accomplished of a hitter. He hit .236 last year with 5 home runs. Granted, he stole 49 bags. He's speedy. But I do think because they're losing Trent Grisham to free agency, their center fielder, they don't want to put Judge back out there. Jason Dominguez is not a center fielder. He's a left fielder. I do think there's a scenario where the Yankees try to sign Ha-Seong Kim. And they put Ha-Seong Kim at short, Caballero at second, and Jazz Chisholm in center field. Remember, Jazz was a shortstop in Miami. They moved him to second base. Then they moved him to center field, and he became Gold Glove contender in center field. He became a very good center fielder before the Yankees got him and put him back in the infield. I do think that's going to be a legitimate threat this year. And what that also strengthens your bench, because right now, your backup infielder, shortstop, is Braden Shoemake. We all know Braden Shoemake has never really been able to hit the major league level. Atlanta traded him to the White Sox. He didn't do much at the White Sox. They waived him, I think, or cut him or DFA him or whatever. I do think there's a scenario here where the Yankees make a hard push at Ha-Seong Kim because that can fix a lot of positions, right? I don't think they want to re-sign Trent Grisham after a career year in his 30s to play center field again. I don't think Spencer Jones is ready to be the center fielder in New York. I think the best solution for them, and I think they're going to realize this too, is Jazz in center, Ha-Seong Kim at short, Caballero at second with McMahon at third. And then once Anthony Volpe comes back, if Caballero's not hitting, they can put Volpe at second. Or if Ryan McMahon is struggling, they can platoon the lefty McMahon and the righty Caballero at third with Volpe playing second base. I do think this is the biggest threat to Atlanta on Ha-Seong Kim is the New York Yankees. You move on past that, Seattle, they'll have one more season of J.P. Crawford, but they also have one of the best shortstop prospects in baseball in Colt Emerson sitting in their AAA. He had 5, what does he hit? He barely got a lot of run in AAA. He got 27 plate appearances in AAA before the season ended. But the point is, he's one of the best shortstop prospects in baseball, and he's sitting behind J.P. Crawford. They timed this perfectly. One more season of Crawford. If they think in mid-season that Emerson's ready, they can bring Emerson up. They can kick Crawford into second base, and all of a sudden they've strengthened 2 positions instead of just 1. So I do think Seattle's not going to be a threat here. Tampa Bay Rays, they clearly did not want the money involved with Ha-Seong Kim. They're going to want, hopefully Carson Williams can take the job and run with it. He's the best defensive shortstop I've seen in person since Andrelton Simmons. He's fantastic. So my guess is they're going to want him to win the job, but if he doesn't win the job, they have Taylor Walls, who is a perfectly fine placeholder. He's Nick Allen with slightly worse defense. He hit .220 with a .319 slug. 317 plate appearances. He had 14 stolen bases and 4 homers. He's Nick Allen with slightly better power and worse defense. I don't think Tampa Bay's a threat here. The Texas Rangers, this one's really interesting because they're not happy with Josh Young at third base. They've been willing to give big contracts to infielders before. I would be curious to see if they would consider either signing Kim to plug in directly at third or signing Kim to plug in at short and moving Corey Seager to third. And it would give you Seager at third, Kim at short, Marcus Semien at second, and Josh Young would be a better DH option than Josh Smith, who is a utility guy that can play everywhere but doesn't excel anywhere. So I do think the Texas Rangers could potentially be a threat, but we've also heard that CJ Nikowski report, right, I talked about last week, that they're considering cutting payroll. And if they cut payroll, they're not going to be going after Ha-Seong Kim. If they move on from Corey Seager, I don't think they're going to be signing somebody else behind him to replace him. They'll probably just move Josh Smith to shortstop and ride with it, knowing that the top prospect in their system is a shortstop in Sebastian Walcott, who finished the season in Double-A. Can Josh Smith be a placeholder for a season at short before you bring up Sebastian Walcott and install him as the shortstop? Entirely possible. So I don't think they make the signing here simply because they don't want to block Walcott. And if you have Seager, Kim, Semien across your infield, you've blocked Walcott at all 3 of those positions. Final team here, the Toronto Blue Jays. Another threat, I think, to potentially sign Ha-Seong Kim. They have not reached the extension with Bo Bichette, just like they reached the extension with Vlad. And Bichette's out with a sprained knee right now. He's not back for the ALCS. He's a question if they make the World Series, will he even play? This is yet another lower body injury for a guy who has also been the worst shortstop defender in baseball. Even if Bo Bichette came back, I don't know if they still would not be a candidate. That was confusing how I worded that. I still think they could have potentially been a candidate for Ha-Seong Kim. But if Bo Bichette walks in free agency, they are absolutely a candidate for Ha-Seong Kim. Because Andre Jimenez has played shortstop down the stretch here. And his power, he's magically found power in the postseason out of the number 9 hole. But that means they've had to play like Isaiah Kiner-Falefa at second. And they've played Ernie Clement at both second and third. And like, Ernie Clement's a good defender. Ernie Clement does better when you can use him as a utility man and play him all over the field. I do think they're a threat to either sign Kim and have Jimenez and Kim figure out shortstop and second base in some capacity, and or you have the ability for third base as well. Like, I do think the 2 biggest threats in the AL for Ha-Seong Kim are the Yankees and the Blue Jays, both in the AL East. And so the end result of this is what? We named half a dozen teams that legitimately could make a push for Ha-Seong Kim, and you can see where it makes sense, and you can see where they have the history of spending money on guys. And so because of that, the Atlanta Braves are going to need to come out of pocket to sign Ha-Seong Kim. I honestly don't even want to get to the World Series ending without him being signed. Okay? This is one of those things where if he makes it to free agency, I really worry that what's going to happen is that you're not going to get him back. You got to make the deal before that. And I would be willing to go a little bit irrational to sign Ha-Seong Kim. Okay? Because here's the thing, and this is a quote from Andrew Friedman, who runs the Los Angeles Dodgers. If you try to be rational on every free agent, you'll finish third on every free agent. When's the last time Atlanta was irrational on a free agent? I genuinely can't remember under Alex Anthopoulos. That's on purpose. But I think at shortstop, you're in a hard place here. I would be willing, if this is me, I would be willing to go 5 years at $20 million a year for Ha-Seong Kim. And I still don't even know if that's enough to sign him. You might have to go to the Atlanta max of $22 million. You might have to offer a 6th year to get Ha-Seong Kim. But here's the thing. At most, barring an extension, you have Ozzy Albies for 2 more years. At a certain point in time in the future, Matt Olson will be moving on. And so, do you have the ability to, say, play Ha-Seong Kim at shortstop now? And when one of your young shortstops is finally ready, move Kim from short to second? And then when Matt Olson's finally gone, his final season would be 2030, do you then move Riley from third to first and you can stick Kim at third? There's a lot of future proofing here with Ha-Seong Kim still playing shortstop. We know that he liked it here, right? I talked about the interview that he did with Korean newspapers when he got back to Korea. He wants to steal a lot. He wants to go back to stealing bases next year, a thing Atlanta needs. I am prepared to get irrational on Ha-Seong Kim. I would go 5 years, $20 million per. That's a $100 million deal for Ha-Seong Kim. You might need to go 6 years and $22 million apiece. The Atlanta max, $22 million, right? To get Ha-Seong Kim. But I think at this point, it's important to understand that you don't really have any other options. If you decide not to do that, Nick Allen's your starter next year, unless you manage to pull off one of these trades somewhere. And I don't think you can count on that. I'm sure AA's working on every option right now. But my choice, don't even let it, it's like the Freddie offseason. Don't even let it get to free agency. You make your best deal right now. Let's get Ha-Seong Kim in the fold so that we don't have to worry about it. This has been Braves Today for Monday, October 20th. Do me a favor. If you're listening on audio, leave a 5-star review, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when we drop the next episode. And until next time, this has been Braves Today.